Okay, today it's a beautiful day. So just a bit early today because weather is so good, and I thought we'll come and sit down outside, just to give you, and you can hear even the birds singing. Today's weather is again 16. Good evening, Colin. Good evening, Margaret, Shannon, and so wait for a couple of minutes before we start. Maybe another 1 minute. Good morning, Margaret. It's a beautiful day. Good morning. Sorry, good morning. My mind is gone now. It's a good evening. Oh dear. So-called sanya in Buddhism is not a permanent. Sanya can be blurred and can be changed, and that's happened to me. Rather than good evening, I was saying good afternoon, good morning. Right. Namatu Ratana Tayasa, may I pay homage to Triple Gem, the Buddha, the Dhamma, the Sangha. My respect goes to my parents and my teachers. So, hello, good evening. Today is Wednesday, the 20th of May 2020, and this is Achan Sujan from Warapunya Meditation Center in Aberdeen, Scotland. As usual, I am here with you every evening since the lockdown began. So it's been how many weeks? About 6-7 weeks now. I've been online with you all, giving you some knowledge about Buddhism and also some life experiences, and answering some of your questions and some feedbacks as well, and also encouraging those who are finding difficult in this situation. So as usual, again today I am here with you all to befriend at your home, the time that you cannot go out, at the time that you have to be staying at home. Although in England the lockdown has been eased, you can go out, considering being mindful of the social distancing, whereas in Scotland and in Wales and still we are during the lockdown time. And the First Minister, as he announced that probably after 28 there will be easing and allowing family members to visit their loved ones. So this is what it is going on, and it is not just that it is not just we who are facing these difficulties, but again around the world. And so far we can see that over 300,000 people already lost their life due to the COVID-19, and in Brazil again the number of deaths increased over 1,000 people, and other countries also facing similar thing. But in the meantime there are other countries, those who are coming back to normal in a normal circumstances and normal so-called new norms. And I think in UK as well, hopefully by June or July, early July, we will have sort of a comfort mind and ability to go around freeing ourselves to go around. But again, we do not know. It's very uncertain and very difficult to predict what is going to be, and unless we have a vaccine, then only we can have some peace of mind. But as long as we haven't got the vaccine, then it's very uncertain, and there is a possibility of a return this virus. So it's need to be vigilant, and just need to be mindful as along the way as we go. So this is what we are, and in this situation again, in our center we have just started renovating the barn, and unfortunately we try to buy some materials which we cannot get it now, so we may have to wait for a couple of days or a week. Until then we will be able to order those materials to renovate the barn. So yes, in this difficult situation, all what we can do is to encourage one another and helping one another, because we are all born with some form of a deficiencies in different ways. Some would have a deficiency in their dealing with their problems. Others would have a deficiency in their financial or family problems. So in this situation, all what we can do is to go and help each other and comforting one another. The significant number of mental mental problem also increased around the world due to this COVID-19, and also job problem and a family problem, and particularly family. In the family, I heard so many stories that related to their children, and which is quite sad to know, and it is obvious to understand that lots of children are living at home, and parents unable to control or educate or make them active, and which is very difficult situation. And I heard when lockdown just about to begin, people were so happy that they will be with their children most of the time, and their parents are going to homeschooling, and within a couple of weeks, a week or two later, found that homeschooling is not that easy as they thought early on. And now I believe that they will see the importance of teachers and how much effort and preparation the teachers normally do to educate one child. So these are the situation that we have to understand, and in this situation again, most vulnerable people are the one who has got the virus or who has got the other illnesses. The virus is okay, but those who are having the other illnesses and the long-term illness, they are also feeling lonely, they are feeling very isolated, and this situation, any possibilities that we have, we should be giving them encouragement and helping in different ways. So in this, I remember from the Buddhist scripture, there was one monk, he was, what's his name? His name was Chunna, and he was very ill, and he had a lot of pain in his body. It's very unbearable, and always screaming out of pain. And one day, Venerable Sariputta and Channa, Venerable Mahachanna, went to visit him in his dormitory, in his kuti, so-called. On their visit, Venerable Sariputta, one who was the right-hand attendant of the Buddha, asked the Venerable Chunna that how did you feel? How did you feel with these pains and aches and sickness? And Venerable Chunne told the Venerable Sariputta that it's so painful, Venerable Sir, Venerable Brother, and this is causing me to take my life. If I have a knife, then I would have cut myself, take my life. Having heard, Venerable Sariputta and Channa was very surprised, having heard Venerable Chunne's suicidal thought. And in order to comfort Venerable Chunne, Venerable Sariputta then gradually comfort him with the teachings and asking one after another. And later on, Venerable Sariputta asked Venerable Chunne that do you think that I is yours? Do you think that the object that you are seeing is yours? Do you think that the I consciousness that sees the object is you? And when Venerable Sariputta asked him, Venerable Chunna simply said, well, my eyes is not belongs to me, an object that the eye sees is also not belongs to me, and the consciousness that sees the the object also not belongs to me. So on, Venerable Sariputta further on inquired his understanding of the teachings, saying, what about this helicopter, giant helicopter? Giant helicopter coming. So just wait for it to go. Okay, so Venerable Sariputta then asked further to Chunna about hearing the sound, ear and hearing the sound, and the consciousness that hears the sound, and nose, tongue and body, and also the phenomenon. And after Venerable Sariputta inquired, Venerable Chunna understood that the things that we see, the things that we are, and the things that we see are not belongs to us. We have no control over it at all. And with this, when we don't have any control over our own body, our own eyes, ears, and tongues, and even the body, then we cannot call it as ours, we cannot call it as minds. If we can call it as ours, then we should be able to order it to be stay young. But we have no control over this body as long as it's whatever we eat, it's transforming it, and it's just growing every day, and it's functioning in its own way. And this functionality, again, we have no control over it at all. So we don't have a control over the breath, and we have no control over our eyes and ears. That's why as our eyes we become aged, and the eyes become blurred, our ears become deaf, and even the taste and even eating also before 30 years ago, before the age of 30, we normally able to eat and digest everything, but once we cross the age of 30, we need to be more mindful of what we eat, and our digestive system slowly not working. So this is also not controllable, and which we can see very clearly. And the body that we used to have a slim and a handsome or a beautiful, again it changed over the time, and as we grow up, and gradually it generates the wrinkles, and then slowly become old. And because of this oldness, and because we have a desire to stay young and then stay handsome or beautiful, and these days this cosmetic surgeries and so-called plastic surgeries are so famous, and it's become a multi-millionaire business, million business in this world. And that's simply because we want to take control over it, but unfortunately we cannot. And this is what Venerable Sariputta was explaining to Venerable Chunna. And as Venerable Sariputta explained these conditions and not belongs to us, Venerable Chunna reflected and slowly contemplated on his the existence of this body. And later on, a Venerable Mahachunna, who was accompanying the Venerable Sariputta, he told the Chunna that the more attachment we have, that generates more dissatisfaction. The more dissatisfaction we have, it generates more trouble and painful. And after that, both Venerable Sariputta and Venerable Mahachunna explained teachings to the Venerable Chunna, who was sick and in a kind of a dead bed, and thinking of taking his life with a knife, convinced that yes, this life is so important, and also it is so vulnerable, and we have to use it. Rather than taking our life, we better use this time consciously and cultivate more wisdom and use it skillfully for the liberation. Nevertheless, once the two monks left, Venerable Chunna took the knife and gradually cut his throat. And as he tried to cut his throat, the fear generated. So he got the fear of death. And this fear of death caused him to concentrate on, rather than cutting, the feeling of a fear. So he concentrated on feeling of a fear of a death. And as he was concentrating on feeling of a fear, and gradually he was able to relinquish all these desires, all these attachments, and able to free himself. And unfortunately he already cut his throat halfway through, and before he lost his consciousness, so-called, before he died, it says that he was liberated, and he was fully able to let it be, able to be free. And it is known as the unblemished death. So like that. And there is another story I just remember now. Venerable Anathapindika, the millionaire Anathapindika, who was visiting his friend in one of the cities, and where the Buddha was there giving a talk. And having heard that his friend, the businessman, was on the way to listen the teachings of the Buddha, and he also wanted to, Anathapindika also wanted to go and listen the talk. So then his friend took him to listen the talk from the Buddha. And Anathapindika basically means, his previous name was Sudatta. Sudatta, who later, because of his compassion and because of his caring nature, that he opened up a helping so-called a hub, that people can come and eat and collect, and then kind of a food bank. So he established that food bank in his city, and as a result of that, all those who are in difficult situation were able to go and get the food and any necessary items from his food bank, and that's how his name become anathapindika. Anatha means those who haven't got anyone to support, and pindika means the food. So it's a food bank. So he established that food bank, and because of that he was known as the food banker. So he before that he got a chance to listen to the Buddha, and after hearing the teachings of the Buddha, he invited the Buddha to his city, and he wanted to build a center for the Buddha and the venerable monks. So as soon as he got back to his city, Savatthi, and he just tried to find out the suitable place for the Buddha. And it happened that the Prince Jeta's grove was suitable for the monastery, not far away from the city, and it's a kind of a forest, and not people are able to go comfortably, and also easy access. And with that, the anathapindika millionaire went to the prince to buy that grove, and it bought very expensively, and yet his faith was so great, and he managed to establish that center with his own buying, with his own money. And later, because of his dedication and faith to establish the center, Prince Jeta left a few pieces of land as a donation. So with that, Anathapindika, with his kind heart, gave that monastery's name Jetavana, means the Prince Jeta's grove. So after he bought that land and established that as a center, then he invited the venerable Lord Buddha along with the venerable monks to come and stay. So that was the first Buddhist center ever built for the Buddhism. And after Buddha came, and he was Anathapindika was so happy, and throughout his lifetime he supported the Buddha along with the venerable sanghas and all the sangha activities at the monastery, and helping the Buddha. In his last bed, when he was about to die, and that time again he wanted to hear the teachings of the Buddha, and that time he sent his companion to invite the Buddha or any monks. And then due to some other duties, Buddha didn't manage to go and visit him in his house. So the Buddha sent Venerable Sariputta, and Venerable Sariputta went to visit the Buddha. Went to visit the Anathapindika millionaire, who was in a deathbed, but his consciousness was still very strong. And in that time, Anathapindika asked Venerable Sariputta to give him easy but very profound teachings, so he can reflect on an ability to be free himself. And in that case, Venerable Sariputta again gave him that our six senses are so vulnerable, and we cannot claim these six senses belongs to us. Once we know that these are all anatta, or emptiness, or not belongs to us, it works in its own way, and when time comes, it has to go, it has to disappear. With that, when Anathapindika millionaire was so happy to hear that profound teaching of emptiness in relation to the anicca, the impermanent, the everything is impermanent, and inability to accept that impermanence causes the suffering. And once we understood this impermanent of these six senses, and with that we will be able to understand that everything is the anatta, non-self. And with that, Anathapindika felt very deep faith in Buddha's teachings, and as Venerable Sariputra left to the center, and Anathapindika died, and Anathapindika died, but he was reborn in simultaneously in one of the heavens, as I mentioned I think 3 days ago about the concept of Upapadika, how beings, 4 ways of beings reborn in different places, and one of them is Upapadika, the simultaneously arising. It's like sleeping and waking up from sleeping. So Anathapindika was also born in that way in one of the heavens, and as soon as he was reborn in the heavens, then he again came down to pay respect to the Buddha as a form of appreciation, in which again the Buddha normally have one period of time, one slot of time for all the celestial beings, so they can come and discuss and then get some advice from the Buddha. So Venerable Anathapindika, now he is a celestial being, also came down to pay respect to the Buddha and express the appreciation that how wonderful that I have this opportunity to create buy this land and offer it as a center, and now there are so many monks are using it for the mental cultivation, and Lord Buddha is staying here, and hundreds and thousands of people getting benefit from visiting the monastery and getting teachings. And in this hundred or thousands of people, there are plenty of people, those who have realized the truth, realized the teachings and liberated them. I feel so happy and so rejoice that offering of this monastery to the Sasana. So this is again how Venerable Sariputra enlightened or helped one who was in a near-death experiencing, and this is again the time that whoever, if we see or if we hear that someone is really facing difficult time, and we realize that they are probably not we have no consciousness to realize that they are in a deathbed, but if we realize that they are quite serious, then we should be talking to them to realize and understanding that everything is impermanent, and one day we have to leave. But when we are living without having any attachment, leaving everything behind. So that's the reason why in ancient time, or even in Nepal or India nowadays, whenever someone is at the time of deathbed, normally will be reminded to think of the Lords, and whereas in Buddhism, whenever we realize that someone is near deathbed, that time reminded to be remembering those good things that person has done. And with that mindset, we believe that they will be reborn in a good place, and the life they have lived here will be very fruitful, and there will be nothing that will make them feel that they cannot go. So whenever we know that someone is living or someone is going to die, that time we have to comfort them that nothing need to be worried, but think of anything good things that they have done, and go on in the next place, the next life, with the good things keeping in their minds. So somehow this come up into kind of a little bit of scary stories and a little bit of scary time of these stories. So I shouldn't be talking about the death and living things in this difficult time, but somehow it just carried on. But I hope that it gives you some form of understanding of the concept of how do we live while we are, and how do we should living this life, preparing for ourselves and as well as helping others to prepare themselves in this time. So thank you very much everyone for listening this every night talk today as well. And with this, may you be happy, peaceful, may you see the right path to the liberation and free from all the sufferings, and may you be able to achieve the ultimate happiness, liberation, the Nibbana. May the Buddha bless you. Good night. And in a few minutes time we will have a chanting and guided meditation. I would like to invite you to come and join with us for the chanting and meditation. Until then, thank you.